So I am back from my journey. I apologize for being away for so long. I just felt like I needed a bit of a breather away from YouTube and social media in general. Mostly because I'm trying to avoid a bit of a burnout. I want to love and appreciate the opportunity that I have here to make videos for all of you, and I couldn't be more thankful. So if you've stuck around or if you're brand new here, I appreciate every single one of you and all of the support. It means the world to me. Very quickly, I want to give my thoughts on the previous chapter because I couldn't. I loved it. The duality between Asa and Yoru continues to grow in such a beautiful way. It blooms into this really nice discovery of personality and emotions, and honestly how they blend with each other extremely well. The more we learn about Asa, the more finesse and personality that Fujimoto tends to write for her. She continues to grow higher and higher on that list of being one of, if not the best character Fujimoto has had to write. You can tell that he's having a lot of fun, making Asa so miserable, going through these motions of depression and anxiety and overthinking every small intricate detail about her past and her present, and having that matched up so well with someone like Yoru being the war devil, the complete opposite of that embodiment, is brilliant. Having this calm, quiet, sensitive side with someone so bombastic and loud and aggressive is a really nice balance. You can see that he is making things a lot more intimate and personal, and with how Asa brings across her emotions being so deep and scarring and traumatizing for herself, every time you see her dive further and discover those feelings more and more, it's an overall joy to experience, and the previous chapter done so well to capture that, both internally with Asa's dialogues and words being spoken, but also visually. They are portraying two different sides of this current world, and right in the middle of that is a primal fear, being this beacon of unknown. We don't know what primal fears embody, we don't know how they tend to act, or what's the quote-unquote norm for them. The only thing we have to go off is the darkness devil, and that was horrifying to its core. Yet everything that we have seen from Fall is different. Their approach is very much more methodical and inquisitive, and they're not outright causing mass destruction, but they're working with a purpose. And I think at this point in time, that is the only link that we have between primal fears, is that they tend to work off a purpose. The darkness devil had a deal and wanted things in return, specifically Makima and a bit of Denji and Pochita, but that plan didn't really come to fruition the way the darkness devil wanted. Even though it done the damage, there was more to it. Fall seems to be the exact same way, working with an intent to create these dishes for this disgusting worm creature straight out of Dune. So at this current time, our understanding of Fall is a little bit all over the place. You can't comfortably go through these chapters and think, okay, they're probably not going to do much, because they haven't really. Yes, they can cause mass destruction if they wanted to, but their purpose is very much the opposite, or at least they're tunnel visioned on trying to achieve their goal. Fall is trying to create these very peculiar dishes, which the main involves Asa and Yoru. Feeding it to the worm, however, brings up a bigger question. Why? What is this worm? And as soon as you start to unfold that into Nostradamus, the prophecy that is currently at play, this worm should theoretically give birth to something. Now, what is that something? I don't know. It could be the final horseman, it could be another primal fear, it could be something that we have never seen before. This chapter, on the other hand, pretty much confirms what I think a lot of people were waiting for, the arrival of Denji. But before you even get that, you actually see how Fall operates with a thought process and moment-to-moment action. To me, this is kind of the scariest thing. This is showing them within a light that isn't just mass annihilation like they could be, representing their power, but leaning into that specific purpose and not really caring about anything else. For some reason, Fall is kind of polite, but then effortlessly takes eyes, ears, organs, parts, whatever it may be, for their dish. So obviously they're working towards their goal, yet they're not doing it in the most gruesome of ways that you may originally expect from a primal fear. Now, there's actually devil hunters that arrive within this chapter, and I was a little bit curious on why they were even here, or how they have this information, because there's 3 of them, they're set up, they all have sniper rifles, none of them are using their devil abilities, if they have any, and instead opted for shooting Fall from a distance. So just that idea alone, if we expand upon it, makes me think that they know a bit about this primal fear. They know potentially getting close to it is a death sentence, just like any powerful devil or primal fear, but shooting it from a pretty big distance where you're hidden away sounds pretty smart in theory. All 3 of them doing the exact same thing and genuinely doing massive massive damage to Fall makes me believe it to be so. Of course, this doesn't stop her. Instantly resurrects herself and is back on the move, and you see the switch in her personality just a little bit. It shifts. Before, she didn't care. She found it a little bit annoying, but didn't want to needlessly create bloodshed or destruction, which goes back to what I was saying with primal fears being very peculiar in design and not just outright monsters. I like this finesse, because from here you never know what you're going to get when it comes to primal fears. They've done it one too many times, however, and she gets annoyed and just annihilates the whole building that they were on. I don't know the distance between that, how far away they truly were, but it was enough distance to use sniper rifles. Of course, all of them die and she uses their remains to create the dish, but I have an extra question. Who are these devil hunters working for? Let's just say for a moment they have information on a devil that is about to come out to play. I don't know how they would know this, but maybe they're just responding to the destruction. One, they were very quick to respond. Two, they were very specific in how they responded, all having sniper rifles fighting from a distance. And three, are these people from Makuma's organization, what we've come to know from the Devil Hunting Association from part 1, or could these people potentially be linked to Yoshida and his organization? We know there's different groups, different factions, different believers within Chainsaw Man's world, but we've rarely got to see them. Yoshida is currently the only character that we know is powerful enough to go wherever he wants. Originally, he wasn't even a part of Makuma's association and that group in general. He was a bodyguard. Now that he's working with a different purpose, currently meeting up with Famine, expecting the worst when it comes to Nostradamus' prophecy, which is what he's investigating, he knows that Famine is a horseman. Combine that together, there's a very loose chance that he knew something like this was about to happen and had all of these people on standby. Whether he knew that Fall, a primal fear, would come into play, I don't know. Probably not. But if it's anything along those lines, I'm assuming he figured something dangerous was coming, and these people are a part of his organization to back him. It's not incredibly vital to the story, but I would like to see some answers for that, just to see what organizations are interested in Nostradamus' prophecy, Denji, Famine, Horsemen, etc. This is kind of the first time a primal fear has spawned themselves into Earth with intention from hell itself. Fall might be the only primal fear that can do this, but it's still within some sort of pocket dimension on Earth. I don't know the range or the scale or how that's visualized from people potentially outside of it, or if people can come and go as they please, similar to how Denji actually interrupts this whole situation. He's there, he's rocked up, he's not wasting any time whatsoever, completely annihilating Fall straight off the get-go. This is typical Denji fashion. It's very impressive. The fact that he can even do this amount of damage to Fall, even though they're not as destructive as maybe their counterpart like Darkness, shows a bit of growth in every department, but quickly you'll see that Fall won't go down that easily, because the very next pages that you get is Denji being annihilated by Fall while she's taking damage, while she's being devoured herself. Denji's body is cut in half, his head comes off. It's brutal, and this is just the first clash between them. Just thinking about Denji versing a primal fear is a pretty scary feat, and honestly I don't know what way it would go. They could clash for a very long time. Maybe Denji has to bring out his other form, which is the full Pochita armor form from part 1. Now play that idea of them clashing alongside Yoru and Asa trying to escape or even potentially helping. We have a pretty interesting battlefield on our hands, and it's hard to really pinpoint what's going to happen. I think the biggest lingering answer to it is whatever that worm is going to awaken partially or get shut off entirely, and that's what we're going to be worried about within part 2. Then again, this is Fujimoto and anything goes. This fight is looking like it's going to be a pretty wild one. I hope Asa and Yoru get their own little screen time in there alongside Denji without obviously them countering each other. The history that Yoru has with Chainsaw Man is volatile, so I doubt they're going to easily work with one another, but when it comes to a primal fear and a common enemy, it may be the smartest thing to do, especially when Yoru has stated that this is someone that they do not want to mess with. At the end of the day, I enjoyed the previous chapter. I loved what's going on within this one, and I'm very excited for the future. So before we end, I won't take up too much of your time. I would really love to hear your opinion about a thumbnail. It's something completely new for myself. Recently, I've gone through a burnout, and playing around with thumbnail ideas helps alleviate that to some extent. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure about it. On one hand, I like it. On the other hand, it's very far away from using the standard manga panels and rearranging them in some sort of an interesting way. So hopefully this is intriguing enough, appealing to the eye, and is completely detached from spoilers and whatnot. whatnot. I'd very much appreciate your honest opinion. I'm on the fence about it. I can always go back to what I was doing prior, so I guess time will tell. But thank you in advance.